right, let's talk lastly about Hal Steinbrenner's comments. He spoke on a Zoom meeting. He was wearing a Rail Rider shirt, which I found was really funny. But he, throughout this press conference, I think Hal made some very valid points. I think that just the nature of, um, I guess we'll just start with what he said. So, one of the big conversations about being profitable was sort of where people got bent out of shape. He said, I don't want to get into it, but that's not a fair statement or accurate statement when asked by, I think it was Heyman who asked him the question about, are the
Hmm.
Yankees profitable? He said, everybody wants to talk about revenues. They need to talk about expenses, including the $100 million expense to the city of New York that we have to pay every February 1st, including the COVID year. So that all starts to add up in a hurry. And then he was asked, well, did you lose money? And he said, well, I don't want to say that. Or he's like, I don't want to get into that. Um, I think the one takeaway there for me is just it's a different state of operations now for the Yankees, just in general.
Hmm.
I alluded to it before. Um, the Yankees now, and like looking at the valuation, not just of the franchise, because the franchise itself, if Hal sold it tomorrow, would make a bazillion dollars on it. I think it's like 9 billion.
Over 10 billion.
So, but the thing that I guess is working against Hal and why he now I don't want to say clutches his wallet a little more or is more involved about the expenses and more looks at it is that the big fish for the Steinbrenners is the Yankees. But now,
Hmm.
Tyler, if we look across sports, a lot of owners, whether it be Steve Cohen, Steve Ballmer,
The
these
Blue Jays, the
the
Dodgers,
Blue
all of
Jays,
them.
the Yankees, in terms of net worth for these owners, Hal Steinbrenner is not even in the top 12 as of recently of August of 2025.
Because they're not businessmen outside of baseball.
So
Baseball is their business.
that is the thing where we have to get accustomed to the new reality. Unless, and here's the thing too, uh the Steinbrenners want to I'm very curious to see. I mean, maybe it may not be in my lifetime, but I wouldn't be shocked. Is I mean, the
They
Lakers
should
just
cash out at some
the
point,
the
but
Lakers and the Bus family in a kind of mirror way a little bit, Tyler,
hmm.
where it was you think of Jerry Buss and his big empire building it back when he bought it in the late 70s. I mean, he was running a real estate business and then was able to acquire the Lakers and build them to what they are. And like kind of what George Steinbrenner did, coming over and building the Yankees up to what they were. It's a lot of different players with a lot of fucking money coming into the
Hmm.
that don't just have that one sports team determine their valuation. And that's what's working against the Yankees in a way now.
Yeah, a
And
little
like
bit. Yeah.
we don't like it, but that's the reality. That's why in times and this is the only way one of the big reasons for me at least where I hold it against Hal Steinbrenner a little bit and why I think it handicaps them in a way is that he's thinking about the finances of wanting to keep whether it be DJ LeMahieu's contract around or Aaron Hicks' contract. They may not be as easy to say, F it, cut his contract because we don't care that much. But because that they're more involved in the
They don't
finances,
want to just piss money away.
that's the thing. Because it is their bread and butter. That's where
Hmm.
I hold it against him in a way. And when you look across town at the Mets, Steve Cohen doesn't give a shit. And if you look at the private
For
equity and
now.
Mark Walter with the yeah, for now. Mark Walter with the Dodgers, they don't give a shit. And
Hmm.
that's the way that it's a difference now, man. It's a difference. I mean, for the top sports owners and or for the richest sports owners, he doesn't even crack the 25. Whereas
Yeah.
maybe 20 years ago, George Steinbrenner was in a different period. But now you got all these guys who got way too much money buying these franchises. And where the Yankees were once
Hmm.
the big fish in the little pond, they're now just one of the other fish in terms of valuation for the owners. And that's kind of impacts their spending. The franchise itself and the value it has is big, but he's not selling that stake and cashing out that money to do anything
Yeah.
with the franchise. So
I also think it's important for people to know like the Steinbrenners own 50% of the Yankees. Like they have investors that own another half of the Yankees. So
mhm,
like Hal does have to answer to some degree to other people.
mhm.
Because if they're going to raise payroll by 70 million, that comes out of the shareholder stakes,
Yeah.
return each year. Um, it stinks to a degree if they ever become like middling spenders where they're spending $200 million a year. Then I'll really get on them. As long as that payroll is above a three, man, and they're in the top 3 to 4, it's tough for me to really like get annoyed by it. Um, and blame Cash for some of the things. Like I guess you can blame Hal a little bit for some stuff too, like giving extra years to guys because you want the AAV lower year to year, where like that's what keeps DJ around too long and Hicks and shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Sandy or Cohen made all of his money in finance, I think, right? And I think the Dodgers I think they were in like the oil industry or something like that, the owners of them. So like they have these
I
teams
think the
as
Steinbrenner started as freight ships and back in the 70s or whatever. That was how George made his money. So it's much different
yeah,
now.
exactly. And then but like also George didn't build the new stadium. Like the Yankees have debt.
Mhm.
It's tough to say, but like also I think people read into the shit like, oh, we're not profitable too much. Like that's what it is when you own a business. Like you try to show as little profit as possible so you don't
But I
pay
don't
as
want
much taxes.
I don't want to divulge into the conversation too much because I guess we could just have it throughout the off season. But I think that one, my big takeaway was it that they're operating in a new way of business, and Yankee fans who spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, don't want to hear a millionaire
No, I agree with that.
not like now that they're more open with it, and maybe you could just blame it on the question being asked when we're in very just the nature of the world and nature of the country right now. People got to spend a lot of money and they want to go see the
Mhm.
Yankees and they don't want to hear a billionaire crying poor. And that I think is one
No,
thing
I
that I
agree with
did
that.
hold against Hal in this sense. But I mean, he was asked the question, but it's just the way that he now operates. And like, we have to, it's unfortunate, but like, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but like, just have to get used to it. That, or unless I mean, when people say sell the team, I guess it's just sell it to a guy that has a gazillion dollars that
Yeah,
then
sell it
doesn't
to
care
someone
like
that's
Cohen,
richer
which
than.
which maybe it does happen. I never would have thought the Lakers would have sold, but they and everyone was kind of surprised. But then when you get into the details about like, yeah, Jeannie Buss and the Buss family didn't really have any other money going on too much and not too many other businesses outside of the Lakers. But and then you understand, oh, we got other people within these sports that want these big franchises that have other investments, have other assets that aren't just defined
Yeah.
by the team. And like the thing that Cohen came, and I guess I'll leave it at this, was like Cohen came in and he said, I'm going to treat the team like a public trust of the
Yep.
Mets. The Yankees aren't going to do that. That's
No.
their bread and butter. And like, it's unfortunate. And it's going to be like the conversation that I think we have throughout the rest of the offseason. But that's what we have to do. And one thing that also he said in terms of payroll, he said, would it be ideal if it went down? Of course. Does that mean it's going to happen? Of course not. We want to field a team and believe that can win a championship. And I do appreciate when he said that if the right like is it ideal that payroll go down? But if there's an opportunity to spend, we will evaluate it and take a course of action. The action will speak louder than those words, but we're going to
Hmm.
find out. So I don't think there were some things that I think were insensitive in terms of billionaire crying poor a little bit, but
Yeah,
in
just
terms of his
tone deaf.
yeah, in terms of other answers, I'm not going to kill him on it and it's just and some of them he was asked in a way that he couldn't really get out
I,
of.
I I like Hal for the most part. I mean, he's honest. He shoots it to you
My
straight.
biggest thing I blame him for is not being comfortable enough to part ways with Brian Cashman.
Yes,
That's
I
my
can totally agree, second that, and totally emphasize that.